Even if Mima's gambling narrative from season 1 was revived in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, the Young Sheldon spin-off should put this stale premise aside. Mima seemed to have changed by the end of Young Sheldon. Because of Georgie's limited role as an accomplice and Mima's senior age, the two narrowly avoided going to jail after Sheldon and Georgie's grandmother was found operating an illegal gambling room with Georgie's assistance. Mima appeared to be prepared to give up her life of crime, but the encounter nevertheless left her shaken. This proved to be wishful thinking, though. Season 1 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage demonstrated that Mima had not changed at all despite her run-in with the law, even though Season 2 of the spin-off would take her narrative in a completely different way. Given all the effort she put into reviving her business in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage Season 1, the experience seemed to reinforce her passion for operating an illicit gambling operation, if anything. The time has finally come for this scheme to terminate. Mandy learned that Mima was operating an illicit sportsbook that placed wagers on nearby high school athletic events in episode 14, a sportsbook and a breakup. Mima gave Mandy a piece of the action by encouraging her to place bets on a pager. But at this point, she was keeping this a secret from Dale. Georgie was concerned about the hazards involved, but Mandy was thrilled with the money. Given that Georgie had worked at Mima's casino for years without suffering any significant repercussions, Mandy believed she could easily brush off this threat. Dale broke up with Mima after learning of the deception, but at the end of a sportsbook and a breakup, he begged her to accept him back with tears in his eyes. After that, the Mima plot of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage mainly stalled until episode 19, Snitch v. Deadbeat, when it became the focal point of a significant dispute between the Cooper and McAllister families. With her gambling plan, Mima put Georgie and Mandy through a lot. In Snitch v. Deadbeat, she used Mandy to threaten her father Jim over his debt to Mima. Audrey, Mandy's mother, eventually found out about the debt and threw Mima's blackmail strategy in her face by threatening to report it to the authorities. The families then engaged in a full-scale conflict that ended with an awkward ceasefire when Georgie volunteered to settle Jim's debt on his own. The plot, which was stressful and nasty, revealed Mima's most mercenary side and demonstrated that she cared more about her own financial gain than her grandson's happiness or Georgie's marriage's success. Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage must tell Mima something new. Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage offers Mima few possible plots, although this is not the only young Sheldon character. Mima has a particularly significant problem with the Season 1 spin-off narrative feeling a little repetitious. The Missy plot in Georgie and Mandy's first marriage Season 1 was essentially a rerun of her Young Sheldon Season 6 and 7 arcs, in which she went too far with her teenage rebellion, learned her lesson, and made amends with her family. However, this worked because Missy's behavior was inevitable after losing George Sr., and similar patterns of behavior are relatable among teenagers who are trying to figure out who they are in the world. On the other hand, Mima's Season 1 plot didn't really work because it reversed the character development she had from Young Sheldon in Season 7. Mima seemed to have a sincere change of heart and repudiated her previous behavior after being imprisoned. In Season 7, Mima seemed to mature from her dangerous criminal behavior. In fact, in Episode 10, Community Service and the Key to a Happy Marriage, she formed a deep connection with Octavia Spencer's strict parole officer, Rhonda. George Sr.'s return was made possible by Georgie and Mandy's first marriage, but Mima's transformation was also reversed by the show. Dale was presented in a sportsbook and a breakup as a hapless enablee who was powerless to stop Mima from resuming a scheme that was dangerous for both Dale and her family. It was unfortunate because Mima's reversion made her less likable and her connection with Dale more strained. Although Dale's portrayal as a calm addition to Mima's busy daily life was a welcome diversion, a sportsbook and a breakup painted him as a helpless plow who was powerless to stop her from resuming a dangerous plan that would endanger not only Mima, but also her family and Dale. Even though there was a clear chance to give Mima a more significant part in Season 2, the series finale did not do so, which made the problem worse. How to make the most of Mima in Season 2 of Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage. The Mima story of Georgie and Mandy's first marriage. Young Sheldon's end was undone. Georgie was given the chance to buy Jim's tire shop in Big Decisions, episode 22, since his father-in-law had retired. Because this was too costly, Mary became a co-owner of the store and pledged her home as security. It is annoying to learn that Mima ought to have given Georgie a loan to purchase the tire shop in the Season 1 finale. Even though this ensures Mary a part in Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2. In hindsight, this would have demonstrated that Mima had good reason to relaunch her hazardous sportsbook betting venture. Since Mima is primarily a supporting character in the stories of other Coopers or gets up to something illegal in her own storylines, her presence in both episodes has always been defined by her wild actions. Unfortunately, this twist didn't work for the spinoff. Given that the conclusion of her betting plot is long overdue and she has no other compelling plotline, Georgie and Mandy's First Marriage Season 2 has no other role for the character. Since Mima is primarily a supporting character in the stories of other Coopers or gets up to something illegal in her own storylines, her presence in both episodes has always been defined by her wild actions. Currently, neither of these choices is feasible.